Hi, I'm Tim, and welcome to the Real Outdoors. I love hiking, backpacking, and anything to do with the outdoors. If you like that stuff too, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button, because that's the types of videos that I do here. In my last video, I reviewed the 3F UL Lanshan 2. It's the two-person Lanshan tent. And while I really like the tent, and I still do really like the tent, it was just a little heavier than I really wanted to carry with me to Philmont. Most of what you're going to see is me prepping for another Philmont trip this summer. Went to Philmont last summer, going back again this summer. And that's what I want to use this tent for, but I just felt like it was a little too heavy. So I decided I would try out the Lanshan 1. Well, it came in today, so let's go inside and do a quick unboxing and then set it up and see if that's going to work out for me. Because the weight is right on the Lanshan 1, just got to see if there's enough space in it. Let's go. Well, we got the Meyer one-person 3F UL tent. So let's do a quick unboxing before we go outside and set it up. Oh, it seems to be about the same size box as the two-person. But obviously there's a lot of airspace left in here, and again we still have the code to scan for the setup video in a plastic bag. Again, I got the green. Wow, even just pulling this out of the bag, it's noticeably lighter, less bulky. So let's take our little rubber band off here, throw him back in the box. Wow, now that feels more like an ultralight tent. Let's take a look at the scale and see what we get. Zero that out first. So right at 2.2, 2.1, right at 2 pounds. I mean, it looks like it's settling in right on 2.1, so that makes it 0.3 pounds heavier than my tarp tent. Again, keeping in mind, my tarp tent is a single wall, this is a double wall. Still one person to one person, but that's a lot more impressive. That's more what I'm looking for. So let's go outside, set this up, see what we see as far as space inside the tent, how hard is it to set up, things like that. Let's go outside. Once again, you can see that Lanshan 1 comes with stakes. I guarantee inside of here are the guy lines that I'm going to need to the side. Need your own trekking pole. Came with compression stuff sack, patch kit, guy lines, stakes. Just like the Lanshan 2 that I reviewed. I'll put a link to that up in the eye in the sky. So far, everything looks very similar, very familiar to the Lanshan 2. Main thing is I want to see how much space I have inside. I really like the Lanshan 2. I just felt it was a little bigger than I need, and obviously that made it a little bit heavier. So I'm hoping this Lanshan 1 has enough space for me, and my sleeping pad, and my sleeping, my quilt. We'll see. All we can do is try. It's going to be the same process for setting up the Lanshan 1 as it was for the Lanshan 2. I'm going to stake out the 4 corners, 4 stakes, and then put in the trekking pole and tighten everything up from there. Now that I have the stakes out, I'm going to go ahead and put the trekking pole in. One thing I noticed that's different about the Lanshan 1 versus the Lanshan 2, obviously there's only one door on the Lanshan 1. There's not that back door for the second person. So because of that, it takes 5 stakes to stake out the corners, so to speak. Because back there where the other door would be, there's another little stakeout point, just to pull things out a little further. Again, this tent has the bathtub floor with the bungee cords on the corners that you need to pull out to the 4 corner stakes once you get the tent set up. So that's what I'm going to go do now. I've opened the tent up and looked inside. Made a few adjustments to the way I had the stakes and the bungees for the bathtub floor staked out and hooked on. I'm honestly really surprised how small this is inside. The walls are really close to you. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to fit inside of this just myself without my sleeping pad and quilt. And actually the bathtub floor doesn't even really look much like a bathtub. It's laying pretty flat against the ground. I get it a lot better here on the front side than I can in the back, and I think that's because that's where the trekking pole is. Trekking pole is also leaning back real hard versus being more vertical. I kind of expected it to be more vertical, and I think that would pull that back floor up. So I'm gonna play around with it a little bit and see if I can't get that working a little better. Maybe I need to loosen the back a little bit so that I can get the front forward a little more. Honestly, it just doesn't look right at this point. I'm gonna go play around with a few things, see if I can get it working better. I've made all the adjustments I feel like I can. I've pulled things as tight as I possibly feel I can without possibly tearing fabric and things like that. So that's kind of where I am right now. Still doesn't seem quite right. The bathtub floor is basically flat against the ground. It's almost like you need a little riser out on the 4 corners where the stakes are in order to get that bathtub floor to sit upright. And this net, it like hangs inside. It's almost like the little hooks that connect it to the Rainfly aren't tight enough or something. Because I can tell you the netting's just gonna kind of fall down in your face and on your body. And I've tried straightening this front trekking pole, tried lowering it, raising it. I mean, I've watched a lot of videos, I've set up a lot of tents. This is definitely a strange setup, but I'm gonna crawl inside and see how things fit in there. just with me first, and then I'll try the sleeping pad and top quilt. It's not even worth bringing my sleeping pad and top quilt in here. I'm 5'11" and I can't even put my feet straight up at the end, even without a sleeping pad in here. My side of my head is rubbing against the back netting. When I get in, I'm pushing against the outer fly, so I would get all kinds of condensation or water on me if that were the case. I mean, this thing is tiny. I would say it's a kid's tent, honestly. I don't know how an adult would do this. I guess you could sleep on an angle, but even then I can't put my feet up without touching the outer fly. I mean, really, I'd have to be in a very specific spot for this to work. There's no room to put anything. I wouldn't even feel good about putting my phone around me. Like, I couldn't roll over. It'd be like being in a coffin. I think the tent's cool, but it's just not big enough. Sorry, Lanshan. Definitely not a winner on this regard for me. Maybe if you were short, if I was shorter, you were shorter. I mean, this just, it's way too small. Back to the drawing board, I guess. Could always get another Tarp Tent Pro Trail. I know that one works. As you could see in the video of me setting up the Lanshan one, it really is just too small. Now, I didn't take video of it, but I had my wife come and try the tent out too. She's about 5'4", and it probably would work for her, but even she said it's a little cramped and it feels like the walls are close. I've since done some research and found that there's a few things I could have done better to get it set up with a little more space, but really it's just not there. The space just isn't there. I mean, you'd really have to play around with it, and I really don't want to do that in order to get that working. I'd love to hear your comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it and what you thought of the tent. I mean, honestly, my review is it seems like it's made for kids. It doesn't seem like that's made for adults. It's just not big enough. I mean, even calling it a one-man tent, I think, is a bit of a stretch. So, back to the drawing board with tents for Philmont. I think what I'm gonna do is give the Lanshan Pro, just came out this year in 2020. I think I'm gonna give that a try. Goes from a double wall to a single wall tent, and of course that brings the weight way down. So I'm probably gonna start with the Lanshan 2 Pro, which of course is the single wall version of the 2-man Lanshan tent. Maybe start with that. I may have to go with one of the more expensive tents to get into the weight that I want to be at and the space that I want in a tent. It's all part of the fun, just trying all this stuff out, so we'll have to see. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, please smash that like button. Click that red subscribe to keep up with all my gear reviews and trip reports in the real outdoors.